Well, good morning. Welcome. This is our third lecture this week. Three more coming next week, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday of next week, all 10 a.m. on the East Coast, 7 a.m. on the West Coast. But I know those West Coast folks like to get up early, and if not, they can watch it on replay. Please do like, comment, share, message wherever you are watching, whether you're joining me from my LinkedIn or my YouTube channel or even over on my Facebook. All those like, comment, share, message things really help. So if you find some value in this, I hope that you do that for me. Let's jump into today. This is a very, very interesting one for us. It's part of our entire series. So you can check out the whole series and when everything is over on my Self-Recruiter website, selfrecruiter.com. And that will kind of fill you in on everything that's available still next week. And all of these are available on replay as well. They'll help you quite a bit. Today is interview intervention. I think most of us need an intervention before our next interview. That's why I named it this way. Someone has to stop us before we do it again. The same old way we've always done it. Interviews are about teaching them how to select you as the very best individual, not simply go in and 20 questions, 20 answers. You know, that may be the device I use to facilitate conversation, but I am not there to answer questions. I am there to present and sell and persuade them that I am the very best new hire. Let's jump ahead. Let me get a little sip too. Interviewing is your chance to really influence other people. The nuance you carry into that is incredibly important. The confidence you carry into that is incredibly important. And yet when most of us are interviewing, we don't actually feel very confident. Well, unless we're still holding our job, then we feel fairly confident. But if we become unemployed, suddenly we don't feel very confident, and we fall into this trap of, I hope they pick me. I hope they pick me. Not likely to pick you. Most likely to pick someone that stands up and convinces me why I should select them. And so that's a difference in presentation. That's a difference in preparation. It's an understanding of your personal branding and its full effect. By the way, personal branding, in case you've missed the earlier lectures, involves everything. Involves how we decide to speak about ourselves, how we decide to present ourselves. Just before this lecture, I was out on the waterfront here in New York City, some compression shorts and 5-finger shoes and t-shirt. You know, if I showed up here that way, I don't think you'd be listening to me. So we have to embody this product. However you envision yourself at the top of your game on your very best career day, that's what you need to present yourself as, and that's what you need to look like. And you have to embody that confidence along with the relaxation in your own value. Now, what determines our brand? Well, it's all of these things, but it's really everything that can separate us out from others. So it's the tactile, it's the visual, it's all of the nuance in between. And we have to think about all of it. And whatever we decide on our personal branding, we have to carry that across our resume, across our LinkedIn profile, across the cover letter, and all of our outreach messaging. So it's a cohesive marketing message of value about us. And then when you walk into that interview, it's going to be a very different interview than your prior interviews. Now, your success here is determined almost by the amount of effort you put in. If you don't put the right preparation effort in, it's not going to go well for you. Interviews, whether we like it or not, or a sales meeting, it's a sales process. Your job is to go in there and take back control, convince them of why you're the right person, make your case. If you had to go into another company and sell your company's product or service or whatever it is you do, would you hesitate to go into that meeting and throw down the gauntlet on the table? Maybe even throw a couple of your competitors right under the bus? Well, if it was a business meeting, I'm sure you would, or you wouldn't likely win that business. But in a personal interview, if we go in like that, it's like Shark Tank. It's like, oh my gosh, it's Shark Week. We got a shark in here, a barracuda, something. I don't know. They're after me. Maybe we don't want to hire them. So you have to be a little more careful, much more nuanced. But I'm going to throw my competitors under the bus just the same, because I have to convince them that the competitors are not the same value as I am. And at the same time, I have to elevate my value. That's part of how I'll teach them how to select me as the very best individual, not just capable and qualified. Cookie cutter, dime a dozen. There's lots of people capable and qualified, interchangeable. If you're only just that, I'll take number two, take number two. I'm paying you less, paying you less. Oh, you don't want less? I'll take number one, take number five. Doesn't matter to me. You're all interchangeable in my view. So I'm paying less. You have to, in all stages, resume, LinkedIn, outreach, and your interview, you have to not only be cookie cutter perfect, but you have to somehow be exceptional, different. You have to step out of line. If that doesn't happen, you're not going to be perceived at the level that you want to be perceived at. In case you haven't seen me before, John Crant, author, career coach, and speaker. Resume and LinkedIn guru as well. So if you are suffering like most are suffering from very poor storytelling across your career branding on your resume, on your LinkedIn profile, all the ways you position and sell yourselves, work with someone that can change that for you. All my services are over on the Self Recruiter website, right under the services tab. And if you need to know a little bit more information, if you need to talk before you're knowing which package is right for you, send me a quick email. We'll set up a time to talk. A little bit more about my background as we go along. Some other ideas that will help you. Certainly my book is a great roadmap. It's available on Amazon, on my Self Recruiter website. It's really everything that you need to deal with in managing career and job search, including when things go wrong and how to correct a wrong offer. All of those things are in there. That'll help you as well. On my LinkedIn side, you can click on a few articles on my LinkedIn profile that will help you. And there's a very, very special version of my LinkedIn lecture on my Self Recruiter website, halfway down the homepage. That's one where you can see me large or the slides large and really use it as a wonderful start and stop tutorial as you build a better LinkedIn profile. Here's those articles I was mentioning over my LinkedIn profile, a little out of order in the slides. Sorry about that. All of those will help some of the lectures that I'm giving last week and this week to piggyback and take it just a little bit farther. Now, across the entire series, it's really about one thing. How is it that you're going to become this truly amazing recruiter that looks after just one very, very special candidate? That's a self-recruiter. That's someone that takes control. They begin to network in a different way. They see themselves in a different way. And when necessary, they give themselves permission to get past the modesty and humility, wonderful traits, by the way, for all the aspects of our life, but not job search and not career. In these two areas, it directly works against us. I grew up Catholic, so I know all about this stuff, but you have to set that aside and give yourself permission to be who you are and what you've earned and what you've built. Besides, of course, networking in a very new way, it also involves keeping one eye on that toughest competitor imaginable. 4, 5, 6 people that would just scare you out of going after that job. Oh, they're going after it. Oh, forget it, forget it. That person. You thought you were right for this job until you saw that person. Those people are sparkly, they're shiny, and if you stick your head in the sand, they'll beat you every single time. But they suffer from something unique called ego and arrogance, and they don't actually prepare. They wake up in the morning, splash a little water on their face, get dressed. It's called getting dressed. We all have to do it. That's not preparation. With a little bit of planning and forethought and other things that you might line up, you can outmaneuver those dazzling people very, very quickly. But you have to take control and you have to believe it yourself. You're going to have to drink just enough of that Kool-Aid so you believe what you bring to the table, and hopefully you bring it to the table. Now, we'd all love to see that job, really get the interview. Wouldn't that be dazzling, and just get that job? But, it doesn't really work that way most of the time. It's much harder than that. Most people are sitting back hitting that darn, well, it doesn't usually say apply. Almost always it says submit. All capital letters until we're so submissive. It's like a Friday night waiting for that phone to ring. Oh, it's going to ring. It's going to ring. It's going to ring. It'll be a telemarketer when it does. So this leaves us in a very unhappy place with our interviews or with our resume or with our LinkedIn profile. We have to get out of this cycle here and break it. Yes, if there's something to correct or adjust, absolutely. But then we have to quit looking in that rearview mirror, and we have to look for more unusual, unconventional, unexpected ways to convey our value. This is simply learning how to change the equation of diminishing returns by changing the rules. These are rules you never agreed to in the first place. Must apply online. Says who? First off, I don't apply online. I recommend my clients do not apply online. Do I know that some of them are going to apply online? Of course. We're human beings. But my gosh, if that's a job that you really want, don't apply online. Like, well, how do I get that job? Like, reach out to the decision maker directly. That's the LinkedIn lecture. And then it produces the interview. And now we're in today where we have to go in and dazzle them, which means we better understand our product. We better understand why our product is better than all the store brand products around it or the other national brands around it. There's something about our product, and you're here to represent it. Let's look at the competitor products for a moment. Mediocre, of only moderate quality, not very good. Middling, middle of the road, uninspired, undistinguished, indifferent, unexceptional, unexciting, unremarkable, run-of-the-mill, pedestrian, lackluster, forgettable, amateur, okay, so, come see, come saw, plain vanilla, fair to middling, no great shakes, not up to much, and bush league. Well, definitions change over time. This is the bulk of the workforce. Pains me to say it, but that's the bulk of the workforce. Portends some awful things for our country's future. But if you understand this basic concept, what do you have to be? Little tiny bit better than mediocre, and you're ahead of most people. If you simply put a little heart and soul into whatever it is you're doing as your function, you will naturally be the top 1, 2, 3% in your field. So keep an eye on that mediocrity and stay as far above it as possible. Now, if we go into interview, it's really about getting our story ready, becoming fluent in our own story, which may sound silly. Well, it's my story. I'm fluent. Yes, but the way you tell it is terrible. You need to tell it in a much, much better way. That's also what I help my clients with. So you have to think about all the different things that you're involved in, all the different things that you've accomplished, all the different contributions, and are they ready to share? Is that story, have you adjusted the story to put them in your shoes, looking out of your eyes in that moment so they can experience it? Well, then you didn't really rewrite that story the way you should have, because your job is to set the stage, set the lighting, make them feel it, make it come alive to them. Now, when you get ready for your interview, of course, it can be just like you see here on screen. It can be in person. Yay. Not as many of those until the final stage these days. Could be telephone, absolutely. Not as many of those these days. And it's all because of the video, Zoom, Meet, Blue Jeans, whatever other variety of video platform they may throw at us. Oh, by the way, I'm coming to you on StreamYard today. Produces this beautiful, beautiful outcome. So really, it's video interviewing that we have to get ready for most of all, because that's the downfall for most people. In fact, if I backed up 5-6 years, I had quite a few people on occasion ask me, gosh, do you do any training on video interviewing? I'm like, absolutely not. Not that I couldn't, but I saw it as too big of a mountain to climb. The vast majority of people were not very good on video, and the learning curve is just too high. But of course, the pandemic changed the world and upended it. It probably advanced us several decades that it would have taken in natural progression. And now everybody's used to video, even if they don't like it, but we're much more used to it. So now we have to get ready to compete in that world to win the in-person interview. So all of this has to be taken into account as we prep for our interviews and how we're going to get the next stage and what do I tell them now and how should I manage my interview? What? You managing your interview? Yes. Even though I am there to be interviewed, I would like to control that interview like a gentle puppet master, making it all happen, helping them feel in control, but being in control. And that means my attitude is I am absolutely not there to answer questions. Oh, by the way, I will answer questions, but I am there to use the device of the Q&A simply to tee up and get ready my various stories I've already prepared in advance. They want to know about that skill set. I'm going to talk about this one. Oh, they want to know about leadership. I'm going to talk about this one. And so whatever it is, they may be 20 question, 20 answer, very regimented because that's how their brain is structured and they don't have a lot of experience interviewing folks. But I'm going to answer back conversationally every time, trying to lure them into a conversational format versus question, answer, because I'm not there to answer questions. I'm there to persuade them and influence them and get them to see it my way. It's positioning and selling yourself. That means I'm going to have to know myself. Let me get a little drink here. In my mind, and hopefully I can make as much of this tangible as possible. Why am I more valuable than the next 6 competitors that want this job? There's, no matter what this job is, if it's decent, there's a lot of folks that may want this job. How am I better than them? And how can I convey that? So the secret you may not like, the reason they're going to hire you, and this is assuming you're capable and qualified. I wouldn't even speak with someone that I didn't believe to be capable and qualified. So that in itself is never my criteria as a hiring individual. I'm not hiring you because you're capable and qualified. We wouldn't even be having this discussion if I didn't believe that. I'm looking for the right chemistry. I'm looking for confidence in you. So number one, chemistry above all other things determines who gets the job, assuming you're capable and qualified. And number two, confidence above everything other than chemistry. Why is chemistry so high up the list? Can't teach it. You can teach an old dog new tricks, but you can't teach it chemistry. So chemistry is something that either exists or doesn't. I have a pre-existing team, most likely. My pre-existing team all has various levels of chemistry and skill and everything else. And I have to find the right skill fit and the right chemistry fit for that team, even if it's the second best person I find. Oh, I found a much better one, but wrong chemistry for this team. I need this second place person. So we have to think about these and understand also that if we come in first, second, or third, you're already a winner, baby. You don't come in first, second, or third without being a winner. They just didn't select you. You could have come in second place and they liked you best. I liked you most. I liked you most. But I had to choose you because you're such a better fit for the team I already have. I wish I could have picked you. And number two over here feels like they got dejected, rejected for some reason. Didn't create engagement, which is a lot closer to that styling. Engagement. So we have to be careful of our assumptions as well. Just because they didn't select you does not mean you didn't knock it out of the ballpark and win. It may not have been the right match for reasons that you can't see. So back to how I'm going to convey this story and what should I do with the story elements? How do I construct it? Well, of course, I'm going to want to reinforce the capable and qualified without too much stress there, because I shouldn't even be involved in this conversation if I'm not. But I have to also include why I'm interesting, what makes me tick, even if that has nothing to do with what I do professionally. That's what drives me, and that's very, very close to the chemistry piece. So you have to be ready to talk about the 360-degree real you. This is a paradigm shift from the past where we only talked about our work, only talked about this. You have to sell the whole person this time. And that means all of the background that you've uncovered. And if you haven't done a deep dive interview for yourself yet to really uncover what gems of story you have, go back and watch my resume renovation lecture where I talk you through how you do about a 90-minute deep dive interview to uncover all those things you forgot or let slip away or purposely hid away that now with better hindsight and perspective are real assets to sell. All of that content, I'm going to filter through a singular question. That singular question, which will help me understand what to talk about or not, is what rises in this collection of information, what rises to the level that would convince them why it's the very best business decision they're going to make today if they choose to hire me. Well, my gosh, those are things I pull right up to the forefront. Also, remember, you may be speaking with different individuals, maybe collectively together or separately apart. And each individual may need to hear something a little different to get their vote. Your job is to get every single vote. You need every single vote. And you have to use all the mastery skills that you have and all of your soft skills to convey your value. Your soft skills are essentially your emotional intelligence quotient. It's all those nice things about us, our personality traits, our quirks, social graces. It's really the ability to make nice, comfortable small talk. I know that's very, very difficult for folks, most folks, but the easier you can make that small talk, the ceiling above you in whatever your trajectory is disappears. Without the soft skills, there is a hard ceiling somewhere and you're not getting above that level. Master your soft skills and almost everything becomes open to you because it's not then simply about credentialing or certain experience or anything else. Soft skills are how you deeply influence other people. Continuing to influence people before I even walk into the interview. Let's say my Tuesday 10 a.m. is my interview time. Fantastic. I have all weekend to prepare. Tuesday 10 a.m. What can I do now? Well, how about warming up your audience, the audience both that you're going to meet with and all the audience that those folks interact with? I could, just like I teach in my LinkedIn lecture, I could go to LinkedIn. I can reverse search this company I'm about to meet with on Tuesday. I could either look for where my job is or imagine where my job is, rebuilding the org chart in reverse. And now I can pick 25 to 30 people that somehow surround that job. Probably people I would interact with and maybe deliver value to each day. And I can open their profiles, which triggers a marketing event. 6 people have looked at you. Who's looked at me? Right behind the firewall of the company. Ask them to connect. Simple message that says, you don't know me. I'm professionally appropriate. Here's a little stroke to the ego. Sounds like this. I like to connect with other professionals in our niche or niche, depending how we like to say that, comma. And of course, I'd love to add you to my professional network on LinkedIn. It says you don't know me, professionally appropriate. Here's a little stroke to the ego. Very, very effective. Now, out of that 25 to 30, whoever you're going to meet with, I also want to open Ask to Connect, but I'm going to change the connect message for those folks and include a gentle reminder as a motivator. And I'll say, looking forward to meeting with you Tuesday at 10 a.m. And of course, I would love to add you to my professional network on LinkedIn. Click send. By the way, those folks especially may not accept until after the interview. Let's see, possibly. But that's okay. Your whole goal is to get them to look at your LinkedIn profile, which should be a 3-dimensional sales brochure all about you, driving them to that natural conclusion that you are the very best decision they'll make today. So open, ask to connect. It's part of a sales process. Since it's a sales process, we don't wait for an answer. Of course, I told you all this stuff. I could just run it by. No, here's what it looks like. So you have the text pretty easily. And the goal is get them to my LinkedIn profile, get them to my sell brochure about me, gentle little figurative nudges ahead of Tuesday so they have as many opportunities to read my background before the conversation, which then changes the conversation. Next step, though, of course, is when it comes Tuesday morning. If that is Tuesday, 10 a.m., Tuesday, 8 a.m., or even 7:30, I'm going to email everyone I'm meeting with separately, by the way, individually. Dear Jack, dear Jim, dear Jill, so looking forward to our discussion at 10 a.m. I wanted my information and resume and everything up at the top of your inbox for convenience. Looking forward to a great discussion. Top of the inbox for convenience. Have you never been to an interview yet where they're going, oh, no, hang on, I have your resume. I have your resume. Really? You have my resume somewhere? You know whose fault that is? Your fault. Just because you sent it in, it's your fault they don't have it in front of them right now because that's your job. You're a salesperson. So 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning before the 10 a.m., I send this nice convenience, top of the thing. Also is a great demonstration of attention to detail and how you'll likely work on projects once they do hire you. It's a win-win all around. Now, if you've listened closely to all of these messages, you'll also notice none of them require a response. It's a mistake to put a question in any of your outreach that requires a response. Oh, I know you want the response. I want the response too. But I'd like that response to be completely organic, of their own choosing. Otherwise, I have to just lean back and let the influence side of that message work. Nudge, 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 gentle little things to move it all forward. Small changes change perception on everything. So does a little coffee. Be persuasive. Now, let's drill down. We're going to really teach you how to develop a full interview plan today. So each of these sections we're going to come back to and drill down a little deeper. But an overall interview plan is really very, very similar to a basic sales plan to go into some competitor to sell your company's product, service, whatever, except now you're going in to sell yourself. Would you go in to sell for your company without having an agenda? Not if you're any good, and you wouldn't retain that job very long if you didn't. So in this case, you have to have your own agenda, even though you don't run the meeting officially. We're going to have to do a needs analysis. We'll come back and tell you what that is. Select and customize our work life stories to get ready. If there's no buy sign, we can't just pretend there was no buy sign. We have to deal with that. We have to overcome any objections because that is the whole point to the interview. It's not supposed to be a love fest. It's supposed to be a challenge fest. Wait, you don't have this background. Sounds like he doesn't like me. Maybe he likes me a lot and he's curious how I think I can do this job so well if I don't have that background. And he can't wait to hear my answer because I'm here to position and sell. They would not waste oxygen speaking to you if they didn't think, oh, maybe, I have to ask him this. Get ready for those objections. And those objections, by the way, internally should not frighten you. They should excite you. They objected to me because they can't wait to hear how I'll put my thoughts together in the reply. Close them. Basic sales technique. We'll tell you all about that. Get them to think of you as the right one and get that job and get the next interview, whatever it might be for you. Let's drill down here. So building your agenda, what's involved here? Well, who am I meeting with? Did your meetings on Tuesday? Who are you meeting with? Oh, they sent me a couple names. Do you know everyone that you're meeting with on Tuesday? Well, they sent me a couple names. I'm sorry, you don't know everyone. Email them back. Well, I just emailed them this morning. Email them again. It's worth it. Dear Jack, dear Jim, dear Jill. So excited for Tuesday. By the way, in addition to yourself and Jane, whom else should I prepare to meet with on Tuesday? Something as simple as that. And they may go, oh, I don't know. Or maybe you just want to include that word likely. Who else am I likely to meet with? Oh, I'm not really sure, but probably two of your peers, along with Jane and myself. Great. I got a reference to two of the peers, even though I didn't get the names. Reverse search on LinkedIn. That's the last 5 minutes of my LinkedIn video. I can just go look up my peers on LinkedIn. Oh, I see there's 6 peers. Well, I'm likely to meet 2 of these folks. I don't know which one. I've got to prepare to meet all 6 people because I don't know which ones I'm meeting with. How am I going to build chemistry with each one? Each one I might detect needs a different line of chemistry building. Maybe one is like head over heels about sports. Somehow I can figure it out. And my gosh, I'm going to have to get up to speed on some sports to talk about with them, or whatever it might be that you deduced from your research preparing. Each one might need a different set of career stories. What do I think this one needs to hear? I think this one needs to hear this based on their background. Anything that would make them jump out of their chair? What else do they need to hear? There must be something else. That's the basic agenda. Now our next step is to do a needs analysis. This is a scary sales term. Simply means, why don't you not answer questions before you reconfirm what the actual need is? Because you're very likely to make a mistake and go after the wrong target. How does that happen? Because you suddenly believed what was in the job posting. That's what they want. Really? Maybe the title, maybe about what the money they post might be what they'd like. Rarely do they really know what to advertise for. So they put out some like, I think this is what I'm looking for, even though it sounds definite. And then if you sell only to that target, their problems could be different. So even if they go, oh, welcome, John, tell me about yourself. I wanted to do that needs analysis first, but gosh, they got that first question in. You don't think I'm going to answer their first question without doing the needs analysis, do you? Of course not. I'm going to sidestep it with a little bit of agree but disagree technique. And I'm going to go, oh, I can't wait to tell you. There, I didn't say no. I can't wait to tell you before I do. I'd love to hear from your perspective. Stroke that ego. Of course, I've done my homework. Can't let them think you didn't prepare. Done my homework. I've looked at competitors and some of the challenges and everything else, but I'd love to hear from your perspective. As I step into this role, I'm projecting myself visually right into the role. As I step into this role, what are the 2 or 3 most critical things to gain control of, say, in the first 30 to 60 days? Stay away from 90 days. That triggers a completely different thing. 30 to 60 days, what will happen, even though these are pretty basic questions, it will cause them to think about what's on fire, what just derailed, what's about to derail, what is the major problem that we didn't advertise publicly that we'd like solved. My gosh, if you can solve that, bullseye, right to talking about how you've solved something similar. So if they don't give you enough, from the needs analysis discussion, you can drill down. Well, maybe they were too generic in their answer. Well, Jack, Jim, Jill, tell me about some of the pain points you're experiencing. What would you like to see change, or what would you like to see solved? Also, why is this position open? Well, I don't think it's appropriate to talk about that. Okay, well, that tells me why it's open right there. They fired someone. I used to say that exact same thing to hiring managers as a recruiter. I'd go, now Jack, Jim, Jill, now why is this position open? Well, I don't think it's appropriate that we talk about that. Oh, okay. Well, let me ask you a different question. What would you like to see changed or solved with this new hire? And then they're going to tell me exactly why the previous person got fired. It's that simple. I can't say why did the person get fired, because then they won't tell me. But my gosh, nuance, very, very easy. What are they not seeing? Boy, that's a powerful question. We're going to come back to that on closing questions coming up. Select and customize your work-life stories. Which ones illustrate a certain skill or a certain value or a certain capability that needs to be conveyed, or a certain interest? I have to ready those stories, and I have to make sure they're succinct enough, because at the end I can always go, does that tell you enough, or would you like to hear more? Nice, tight, short, succinct, always leave more story. Objections. Now, you haven't worked in this industry. You haven't worked since last year. You haven't worked in this function. You've never worked in nonprofit, or never worked in commercial. Did you forget they wouldn't waste oxygen? Don't be distracted by the accusation. That's simply technique. They wouldn't have wasted oxygen or this time on you if they didn't think. They just want to hear you tell them why it doesn't matter. But you've never worked in commercial. I haven't. Oh, you've never worked in nonprofit. I haven't, but I'm sure you'll meet lots of those folks. Little agree but disagree technique. Lots of those folks and the other candidates. Everybody else is a candidate. What I bring is quite different as an individual. I'm always an individual. And my job is to sell. I'm so passionate about nonprofit and your mission, but what I bring is a commercial acumen that can really help up the effectiveness of the organization. And married with the passion I have for a mission, I think that's something special you won't see in other folks from other nonprofits. That's why I'm so excited by our discussion today. Please don't forget it's a date. You always have to circle right back to them at the end. Overcome those objections. Those should excite you. It's your job to convince them. No buy sign. Well, how do I know if there's no buy sign? Well, there's only two buy signs. First buy sign is, I'd love to bring you back next week to meet Jack, Jim, or Jill. Even if they don't book the date or time, if they indicate they want you back for that, accept the win. I'd love to have the book date and time. Yes, but that's a win. That's a buy sign. The only other buy sign is I'd love to move toward offer stage. I'd like to get your references. So the references move toward offer stage. The only other buy sign. If your interview begins to close like this, Jack, what an amazing discussion we've had. You had a terrific background. Oh, sounds so good so far. You've done some really dazzling things for some amazing brands, but I'm not hearing the magic buy sign words. And then they segue over to, but we have a few more people to see. It'll probably be a few more weeks, probably be the end of July before we're ready for the next stage. After meeting me, would I say something like that? I certainly might, because I think I can pull it off. You have to be able to pull it off, and it has to match with your own delivery and your own confidence level. But in this case, rather than using that, I might go to closing questions. And closing questions are a way to help them reset and help them visualize their challenge, the hiring process, in a two-dimensional timeline. At the same time, they're going to think of your problems, the scary part, as they think of where they consider you to be on this two-dimensional timeline. Let's show you how this works. So if I didn't get the buy sign, I might say, well, Jack, what have you not heard? Or what have we not discussed? I like to go positive, negative, because we never quite know how the brain is wired. That will help you in your decision process for the role. And then look confidently in their eyes. Try not to blink. Oh, that's very, very good, by the way. If you've seen me before, you probably get that John would like even a little bit more gravy than that. Sure. I would like it to be more of a bullseye. Jack, what have we not discussed? Or maybe what should we discuss that would help you in your selection of me as the very best individual for this role? And you better believe it, and you better stare them right down with a positive look in your eye, excited for whatever they say next. And maybe they'll go, well, John, you have a great background, but I think you might be a little weak in area A. Pause. Ooh, area A. Was area A important? Yes, very important, very important. Did you talk about area A? No, I avoided talking about area A because it didn't come up, and I was afraid of it because I've only worked on 2 projects, and I was afraid if they heard I only worked on 2 projects, they think I didn't have enough experience. And so now they think you have no experience in area A because you didn't talk about it. So here's how we overcome that. I'm going to use the same agree but disagree technique. I'll show you how close I'll get to agreeing, which isn't too close, but a little close. They say, well, gosh, I think you may be a little weak in area A, John. Oh, well, I can see how you might think that, but actually I've worked on projects such as this and such as that. What should we discuss? Pause. Those are the only 2 projects I've worked on. Everything I said was absolutely letter true. This is not a confessional moment. I am not here to confess it's the only 2 projects. Sure, they think these are representational, and they are, of all the future work I'll do, but the only 2 I've done. It's a test. Do you have the experience? Do you have the confidence? Talk about these things. It'll help you. To recap, building an actual interview plan, we have to build out the full agenda. We have to do an actual needs analysis. And if we meet with people individually separately, that's a separate needs analysis for each person because they may all have different perspective. I think we should hire this. No, I think we should hire this. And they all have a little bit of a voice. Custom needs analysis as you customize those work-life stories as well. If there's no buy sign, have to go after that, have to overcome those objections. You have to close them. That's how you get the interview or get that next job or get the offer, whatever it may be. I'm going to run you through the self-recruiter interview checklist. This is another way to think about all the things I just talked to you about. Let's dot the I's, cross the T's, make sure everything is covered before your Tuesday interview. Complete your research on the job, the company, more. Read every word of the website. What? Every word of the website? Every word of the website. Would you like this job? Well, then read every word of the website. While you're there, I sure hope you're going to learn how to copy and paste a little bit into a text document so that you begin to absorb the way they speak about themselves. And then those phrases you easily integrate into your style, prepping for the interview, so they hear their own employees speaking. The job, well, how do we do the research on the job? I bet you, if you put the job posting aside, you think you're qualified for this. I bet you could write a better job description yourself. Then maybe I'll look at their job posting, add a few of the details back, and I'll very likely, definitely look at some of the competitors and see what they seem to say about their job. That's all in understanding the job. Company culture, good luck there. You may not even understand it until you're well inside the door working. Needs analysis, of course, we talked about that. You do it before you answer questions. Oh, behave. Your body language is speaking volumes about you. Chemistry, confidence, poise. Grew up so shy and introverted myself, but gosh, when I was in high school, I had a really close friend who was also quarterback of the football team, and my gosh, he walked so confidently. I'm like, oh, I need to start to walk like that, and borrowed a little bit of that body language to convey like I'm all that. Speaks volumes. We have to prepare. We have to do the difficult stuff for us if it gets us out of our comfort zones. You have to make sure that your hands are not a sweaty mess. You know how many people I've walked out to interview, walked out to the lobby, shook their hands, and in my brain I'm going, ooh. But when someone comes out to shake your hand, you can't go, oh, nice to meet you. What'd you just wipe off there? So we do have to learn how to keep our hands loose so they're airy, maybe keep them lightly on top of our pant leg, if my pant leg was up on camera, so that it could just, I'm just sitting there, it's naturally dry, and there's no wiping for the body language. Also on body language, please don't stare them down. Oh, I know you want this job. I know you want this job. You cannot become one of those statues that no matter where they go, they're being stared down. You have to look at them a little bit and then look away to think and talk, even if you don't need to. And they have to come back and give them a little love around the eyes and then look away for a minute. That's a nice balance. Dress like you are a success. I work with clients on every level, every field. Some of them are in creative, and gosh, don't those folks in creative love to wear jeans, t-shirts, whatever they can get away with, but not on the interview. Well, I understand that's maybe acceptable in your work life because you're creative, but that's not okay on the interview. You have to look like you on the very best day ever, so they can imagine how will you look when there's a board meeting, how will you look when there's an important client in the office, all of those things. If your competitor goes into their interview looking like $1 million and you don't, your competitor's ahead of you. They got one notch ahead of you, and you have a red flag on you. You do not want red flags. You want every single vote. Are you listening? Giving you so much to think about. you'll forget to listen. So yes, there's all this preparation, everything else. And then you get there early. We're about to talk about timing. You get there early, you prepare, you close your notebook, everything else. And from that point onward, you utilize everything you prepared, but then you also have to listen very, very actively, and you have to work with a notebook. I can take notes during my interview. It's a business meeting. Can you take notes during a business meeting? Of course, and you don't have to ask for it. But that does not mean you can become OCD with your notebook. That is not going to go well for you. You need to learn how to have the pen or pencil in your hand, have the notebook, be able to just glance down for a second to see where you're writing, and then write while you're still looking in the eyes. That note is just to remind me when I glance down. I'm not taking detailed notes so it looks like I'm a crazy person. I have to listen and I have to respond. But they may not quit speaking for 5 more minutes, and I might want to circle back to this item, which I could forget if I didn't take a note. Are you listening? Yes, we're there to interview and we'll find out whether this is the right job for us and everything else, but you are there to go in without doubts, even though you're still evaluating. If they see doubts, if they see consideration, you're probably not their first choice. You're there to sell yourself nonstop, your excitement, your energy. Oh, let's get to the next one. Everyone likes this one. Would you like more money? Well, I'd like more money too. Everyone would. So how you get the very best offer is very frustrating for most job seekers. It's by discipline of not talking about money. And then my clients ask me, but when do I? Don't talk about money. But when do I? Is there something unclear here? There's no discussion about money until an offer is on the table. Only at that point do I ever have any discussion about money. You cannot win if you talk about money early. So, I know they try to ask you these things up front, and there's ways to get around it. Your goal is to deflect them. Maybe if they ask you about the expected desired future salary, you go, gosh, Jack, Jim, Jill, I'm very open. To me, it's really about finding the right home for my career. Oh, there's a magical phrase. Write that one down. Home for my career. Circle back to them. And that's why I'm so excited by today's discussion. And that simple deflection will cut off a third of them that won't be brave enough to ask again, which is completely shocking to me. The other 2/3 are going to come back after you, maybe a little more helpful this time. Maybe they'll, like, I'm rolling up my sleeves, grabbing the pencil. I just need a ballpark. I just need an idea. Just need we're headed in the right direction. Liar, pants on fire. And they're going to use that information right against you. There is no time I will tell them how little to pay me, which is what this question is. Do you think I'm ever going to answer, me personally, ever going to answer how little to pay me? Of course not. If someone said, well, how little can I pay you, John? I'm like, excuse me? We're going to have a very different discussion. So my best take here is to ignore it and deflect it. When they come back after me and try to be helpful, I'm simply going to say, gosh, as I said, I'm very open. I mean, it's about the right home for my career. I'd say, make me a fair offer. With a pause. Now, as you say fair offer, they're going to think of a number much lower than you, and you're going to think of a number much higher than them, and we understand what's the problem with the fair offer. So then I have to continue after the pause to define what a fair offer is. Even if they begin speaking, I'm going to have to step on them, which I don't like to do, but I'm going to have to. And so, just make me a fair offer, based, of course, on the responsibilities for that role, which is the bare minimum. Another little pause. And of course, icing on the cake, those unique things that I bring to the table. And then cap it off once again with, just make me a fair offer. I'm sure it'll be fine. By the way, if they make you a fair offer, I am sure it'll be fine. I'm also very, very sure they will not make you a fair offer, because everyone I've been involved in, they lowball. And they're like, oh, we can offer 85. Oh, we can offer 75. Let's see what happens. We can always go up. We can always go up. And behind the scenes, it's usually that simple. For us on the other end, excuse my tissue, it's emotional. So I could do a whole session just on negotiating, but there's a little bit of secrets that'll help you a lot. Don't tell them how little to pay you. Time to get it right. Couple timing issues. First off, don't be late for your interview. There's no recovery from that, or very few recoveries from that. Get into the area 30 minutes in advance, get a coffee, make sure you have the right carbohydrates and everything floating in your system, all balanced. Review all your notes 10, 15 minutes beforehand, close the notebook, be centered, be present, give yourself enough time to get through building security, floor security, and arrive in that lobby office 5 to 15 minutes before your interview, not a second earlier. You have an 11 o'clock interview, you show up at 10:35. That does not do anything to help you. I get the call, oh, your 11 o'clock's here. Oh, my day is already out of control. I can't leave you out there for 25 minutes. I have to come out, put on happy face. Oh, hi, nice to see you. I'll be out right at 11 or maybe just after, running a little bit busy today. Can't wait for a discussion. Oh, you're messing up my day already because you didn't think about your job is to remove the pressure, be a demonstration of how it just works seamlessly when you're there. Very important. Next step, opportunity. The whole time has to be all about that opportunity, how excited you are. And at the very end, you have to ask for the job. It can literally be, I want this job. It could be. That's not really what I mean. I simply mean, tell them you're excited, you're interested. Jack, I'm so excited by this role. What's our next step? Well, John, we're going to walk you down to meet Sally, as we said earlier. Oh, of course, I can't wait. Yes, but Jack needed to hear I was excited for what the next step is, even though I knew I was walking down the hall to meet Sally. Ask for the job, because they remember after the 6 or 8 interviews, they remember those people. Now, the real homework is preparing the answers to the questions you're going to be asked. You already know almost every question they could ever ask you. Write them out, and then also write out your answer. You cannot, or most people cannot, effectively do an answer off the cuff. It'll be 1,000 times better, 100 times better, even 10 times better, simply by writing it out in advance, thinking about how you set the stage, the lighting, how you put them in your shoes, how you get them looking out of your eyes to experience whatever it is you're conveying to them. Now, to your set of questions, you're going to add 3 self-recruiter questions. So you make up the questions. If you were the hiring manager, then you add these 3 self-recruiter questions, which will help you focus a little bit more. Tell me why I should hire you over all others that I see, like throwing down the gauntlet. All right. Not likely to ask you it this way, but you need to convey elements of this answer in your other answers, so it's there. Next question is, tell me why my work life will get easier or better by hiring you. Again, not likely to ask it this way, but absolutely you better have these answers mixed into your answers, because if my work life gets easier or better, I'm hiring you. I'm definitely going to hire you. Last one, of course, you already know. Why is it going to be the very best business decision I make today if I choose to hire you? And you better convey that answer, either directly or mixed into your others. Practice makes perfect. Can't do it off the cuff. Can't be organic. Can't seem like you own it if you don't practice. So get with a coach, get with a friend. I know a pretty good coach if you need some role play practice. And also in interviews, follow up, critically important. Would you like to be a standout? Send a thank you note. It is shocking to me how few people send thank you notes. When I do an in-person lecture, I'm in front of a big audience, I'll go, who sends a thank you note? And I'll see quite a lot of hands. I'm like, so shocking, because in reality, almost no one sends a thank you note. Almost no one. Would you like to stand out? Send a darn thank you note. A basic one. By the way, a bad thank you note is a thank you note that thanks someone for their time. Please never again, for the rest of eternity, thank someone for their time. You have now made yourself subservient to them. Your time is just as valuable as theirs. So you need to be equal to them. Why don't you thank them for something more meaningful? Jack, Jim, or Jill, just want to say what a great discussion. Thank you for sharing your insights. I'm so excited by what I'm hearing about your team and the company. Sounds great so far. So thank them for the correct things. Now, we can also use this thank you note process to solve problems before they prevent us from getting the job in the first place. Self-diagnosis is key, so don't go home. After the interview, you go out, you find a bench, you could go find a coffee shop, whatever is right for you, and you're going to do this deep dive debrief. This is where it is an interrogation, a self-interrogation, a grilling, an examination, a cross-examination. What went well? What didn't go well? What did I forget to do? What did I say? What do I wish I said different? The good, the bad, the ugly, all the things in between. I have to think about every one of these things so that every interview I have makes the next interview for whomever brand that might be better and better and better. If I avoided talking about things too, I have to understand that and think about, did I do it correctly because I should have avoided it, or did I avoid speaking about something like area A that was so important? Ask some questions. Now, closing questions. If they don't move forward with you, what's the reason going to be? This is the debrief closing question for yourself. I don't want you to intellectualize this. This is, if they don't move forward, what's the reason? First thing that pops into my head. What you're doing is training your gut instinct here. And maybe you're going to say, oh, it's because I'm weak in area A. Was area A important? Oh, gosh, it was. So here's how I overcome all of this. I thank them for their insights, the discussion, for the opportunity, everything is. And then I segue to a new paragraph. And we didn't have a lot of opportunity to talk about area A, where I've worked on projects such as this and such as that. If you'd like to discuss those, reach out to me anytime. This exact technique saved one of my promotions very early in my career. Prior to ever being a recruiter, I was running a pre-press service bureau, and out of 121 retail locations, my department had the #1 department in the entire country. We were in the #4 store in the entire country. And so my store manager goes up to be country manager of Canada. And John, of course, naturally thinks, well, I should just rise to the throne. I mean, I'm already the #1 P&L, to my department in the entire system. I should rise to take the #4 store. And I could also see my direct competitors at the much smaller locations. That's a danger because ego and arrogance filters in. I'm like, they are not competitors of mine because I brought a lot more to the table before ever getting that job. I took that job for different reasons, more schedule reasons, well overqualified for it. I'm like, oh, I should take the senior role here. And I went in and I interviewed. I did well. I thought I did well. Of course, one of the interviewers was my regional manager. The other interviewer was a different regional manager from another region, and who didn't quite get me for some reason. I'm like, I don't get John. I'm like, do you get my P&L? It's amazing. And so I go back to my store, and then I called my spy in headquarters. Very good to have a spy. Now, yeah, I think it went well. No, I don't think so. They're in there arguing about you right now, something about your vision for the store. I'm like, oh, how did I go through a whole interview and I failed to communicate my vision for the store? Oh boy. And so I thanked them for their great discussions and insights. And by the way, we didn't get a lot of opportunity to talk about my vision for the store. If you'd like to talk about that, reach out to me at any time. Here's my cell phone. Click send, and oh my gosh, I'm bullet pointing out as fast as I can on my counter at the store, thinking they're going to call me any moment. They never called me. Got the job. Oh, look, here's a vision. Well, they can't do anything anyway. It's a big corporate environment, but here's a vision at least. Okay, that part's over. Leave them excited. I'm excited by what I've seen. What's our next step? Let's move things forward. All things being equal, it's always about chemistry. So you have to think about how you build more chemistry than everybody else, how you engage more people, how you smile, how you shake their hand, how you make it about them and helping their team versus the angle of always being about you, which isn't quite as good. Be real, be genuine, show real interest. As I talk about in so many of my lectures on video these days, I'm actually quite shy and introverted. And this is what you see here. Am I not being genuine because I'm like this? No, we're multifaceted human beings. This is me too. Sorry. Need that tissue one more time. Something in the air today. This is another aspect of who I am. This isn't what's weird. I'm about to say this isn't the part of me that I enjoy being, but it actually is sometimes. I enjoy it in this moment, but I don't enjoy prior to this moment having to get ready to do it. But you have to give yourself permission to own who you are. For the last few minutes for today, what we're going to do is really teach you how to have a proper video set up for your interviews, which will make a world of difference. Now, yeah, interviews can be all these different things, but in today's world, it's really going to be about video interviewing, setting you apart from others. And that means we have to really prepare for it. COVID-19 brought this all upon us and all of that. And you know what? I think it's here to stay now because after we get used to video interviewing, it's much more effective. So let's talk about backgrounds first off. I'm going to show you a few interview Zoom pictures that I just grabbed off the internet. Remember that chemistry and confidence win the day. So our question is, do we see it? Do we see it? I mean, I don't even think this person understands they're at an interview. They certainly are not interviewing for a sports team. So this hat doesn't work. I don't really understand how this person thinks they're going to get hired. Not going to work. Chemistry and confidence win the day. Can we see it? I can't even see you because I'm so blinded by the way you set your screen up in the light behind you, and also your diminutive little downward little munchkin. Can't see you. Need to see you, not this guy. Chemistry and confidence win the race. Do we see it? Do we see it? Well, I bet you they feel confident, but I don't feel the confidence. All I feel is ego and arrogance, and I don't need to look up your nose, and I don't need to look at the beams on your ceiling. That's just no attention to detail. You're going to take that no attention to detail into your work. Chemistry and confidence win the race. I don't feel the chemistry, but I do feel the confidence. I see it. I see it. I see it. I'm going to give her the vote on the confidence right before I take it away. I'm going to take that vote of confidence away because of a couple undermining factors. Number one is this Madonna boom mic, gamer mic. I understand you might like to listen that way. You might like to speak that way. You might feel confident with that on your head, but it undermines your confidence, no matter how confident you look. Also, selection of this image does not help you. Beautiful image, by the way, but it's too beautiful, too distracting. I keep looking behind you rather than looking at you. Chemistry and confidence win the race. Do we feel it? Do we feel it? You know what? Even though it's a stern look, I give it on both of these. I'll give it to him. I'll give it to him. Great framing, by the way. I love this framing. Very powerful. Mistakes. Don't upstage yourself. We have this giant photo on the wall right behind the head, and I keep wanting to know what is in that photo, and this person allowed themselves to be upstaged. Chemistry and confidence win the race. Do we see it? Do we see it? I'll give them the chemistry. I'll give them the confidence. But again, with this curved wall and this selection of pictures, we're being upstaged again. And I'm so interested in what's behind you in these pictures that I can't quite make out, and less interested in you. Chemistry and confidence win the race. Do we see it? Do we see it? I give it to them on both. I feel it. I see it. I don't quite think the Princess Leia headphones work. I know you like to listen to that way, but this is not the time to feel comfortable. This is the time to look comfortable and feel confident. Chemistry and confidence win the race. Do we see it? Do we see it? I see it, and I'll give them those credits. Some positives here. Look at this image. Oh, I know this is just a stock photo, but picked the right stock photo with depth, not distracting away, adds focus to him. Beautiful job there. Even those small little headphones don't work well. That diminishes your value. So let's lose the medium headphones also. Yep, you can wear the little earbud with dangle or wireless earbuds and get away with that quite seamlessly. We're quite used to it now. Chemistry and confidence win the race. All things being equal, this is the best one. However, this still has some problems. It's still a little bit too up angle. Oh, get that nose, those nostrils down a little bit. Framing is pretty good. I like the three little ridges on the left. I like the little bit of image on the right, just enough to be interesting. Frames him really nicely. It's a little too bright on one side, dark on the other side, but all things being equal, I'll take that one over the rest. Now, let's get into a real setup, whether you're Zoom, Meet, any other platform that you might be on. So I'm going to show you two setups. Here is my other half's work setup when working from home. Original setup was right at our front window. Now, I can't stare at the bright window all day long. My eyes are hazel. And as much as I've learned to love these bright lights right here during broadcast, normally my brain starts to really be unhappy in that kind of light. And yet that kind of light looks amazing. So lighting is very, very important if you're going to look great. You see how nice I may look today based on lighting. I have 3 giant box lights around me, which you're going to see here in just a moment. Very likely you probably have to elevate your computer because your computer's camera's too low. You're going to end up with that kind of thing. So up on a box. If you need additional light ring behind it, even those light rings generally have a color adjuster, so you can Get your skin tone just right, not be too one thing or another. If you'd like to sound great, you're going to have a mic. You're going to have a real mic, not just the mic on your computer. Sure, that's adequate. You want to leave adequate to your chances of getting that next interview? One of these condenser mics are not very expensive. It's well worth it. This is the one I'm speaking on right now. It's a Blue Snowball. Very nice. Grabs and makes the sound much more compelling. And so here's my actual setup. Now I have 2 studios in my apartment. I have one originally that I set up in the master bedroom. So this is the ironing board standing right next to the king size bed. Boxes stacked up on top. And in fact, I have the same box set up in my second studio right here where I am now. And laptop way up on top of that. You see mic on top of that. The light box is beginning to be around. Green screen. I have a green screen here too, up against the wall. Green screen right behind me. And the light boxes creating all of this light. A stool where all this stuff can magically go right in front of you. In reality, this entire lecture, I am moving around in less than 1 foot of square space, but I'm still free to move and relax. And that's the other thing for your interviews. Do them standing up, free up your diaphragm, free up your energy. Very, very different perception than if you do it sitting in a chair. If you're doing it sitting in a chair, I hope you learn the broadcast trick of sitting on your coat so it's nice and sharp. But think about all these things that can really separate you from others. Don't have a picture of my current setup, but I moved and painted the entire alcove at the front as a green screen. So I have a much larger studio in the front of my apartment now. Thank you guys for tuning in today. This is Interview Intervention, all the things in this post-pandemic world you can do to change the equation, to teach them how to select you as the very best individual. If you need help on your career branding, if you need help on your resume, your LinkedIn profile, or even prepping for your next interview, all my services are over on the Self Recruiter website, right under the Services tab. And if you need to chat before knowing which package is right for you, reach out and we'll set up a time to talk. Really appreciate you guys tuning in. I hope you have a great weekend. I'll be back on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday of next week with these next 3. And hopefully you check out the entire series and like, comment, share it with your friends, whether you're joining me on LinkedIn, Facebook, or over on my YouTube Self Recruiter channel. And if you're over there, make sure to click that live tab, which is where most of my videos live. Thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll talk to you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.